Hi, I'm Natalie, also known as the Crafty Millennial Mommy, and welcome to this episode of my hopefully weekly podcast or crafting vlog or whatever you want to call it. I haven't really decided on it yet. So, I am a crafty person. I do all kinds of crafts. I bullet journal. I am gardening, sowing seeds, taking care of my plants, knitting, crocheting, jewel crafting, all kinds of different types of crafts. Basically, if I've heard of it, I've probably tried it. Or I'm currently doing it. And I figured I'd share my passion for crafts with you guys. So currently I'm knitting a lot, and I was on YouTube and I stumbled upon this YouTube channel called Witchy Knits, and it was so inspiring I decided to try and knit a pair of socks because she made it look so fun. I've always felt like socks is this mythical, really difficult thing to do because heels, they're my nemesis and I can't really figure them out. Basically my knitting history isn't that long. I have knitted 2 pairs of hats, both were a Fair Island pattern from Drops or garnstudio.com, and a matching pair of fingerless gloves for those hats, and a pair of gloves for my partner, and also 2 socks. Not a pair of socks, 2 separate socks. I never really got around to knitting a pair, and I'm really allergic to wool, and I was at that time knitting out of wool, which was a really bad decision, considering it's not great when you can't breathe while crafting. And then I tried knitting out of cotton yarn, and I just didn't like it at all, so I stopped knitting at that time, and that was 3 years ago. But yeah, after watching Witchy Knits, I just got that knitting mojo back, and I was thinking that since I stopped knitting, I took up crocheting, and I moved from cotton yarns into acrylics. Or from cotton to a cotton acrylic blend, and then into a yarn that was fully acrylic that I really liked, and I thought to myself that I think it might actually be possible to comfortably knit with this yarn. So I decided to try that, and yeah. So I started knitting again maybe a week ago, like really getting into knitting. But I started a project, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I thought I'd talk about my works in progress and finished objects. So the first thing I started off with when getting into knitting again after not knitting for 3 years and not really knowing what I'm doing and never having knit a piece of clothing ever in my life, was that I decided to knit my son an ugly Christmas sweater, because I figured that if I mess something up, it's not really gonna matter, because it's an ugly Christmas sweater and it can be a bit ugly, and that's fine. And I have an arm left, because I don't know, it was hard knitting the arms, because it decreases every 2 centimeters, and I found it hard to do, but it's working out quite nicely. When I'm done with that arm, the only thing that is left is that These lovely little reindeers are gonna have some red noses on them. The pattern is, I think it's called Little Red Nose. It's from Drops or garnstudio.com. This pattern I've only found in Swedish, but there's an almost identical one that is a cardigan, and that's in English. This is size 3 to 4 years, and yeah, I'm actually oddly happy with it, and it did really turn out way better than I expected I would. Let's put that away. Throw it there. And then after watching Witchy Knits, I decided that I wanted to try my hand at socks again, and maybe actually be able to knit a pair of socks. Because I mean, it would be lovely to not have just one sock. So I decided to knit a pair of baby socks. These were also gonna be for my son, but I cast it on the size 3 to 2 to 3 years old, I think it said. And I just thought they looked really big, so I decided to frog it and then cast on the size 1 to 2 years old. And they ended up being too small, even though they look surprisingly big for being tiny kid socks. So that was a little disappointing, but I'm currently pregnant, so I'm thinking that I'll have another little person to dress in these socks. Anyways, so it's not really that much of a waste of yarn or anything, and I got some practice with a heel, and I mean, there's a few holes in the heels, because the heels are really, it's not really that obvious, but like it's way smaller than I expected it to be, but and this side doesn't really have any, so I don't know why, but one side is always ending up worse than the other. And this side only has one weird hole. But yeah, I figured out how to do it, and it's called garter stitch. On the top of the foot. Or ribbing, is it? Yes, ribbing. On the top of the foot and like, oh, what's it called? It's ribbing on the top of the foot and the leg part. Let's go with that. And then stockinette stitch. Or is that the garter stitch? I do not know my English knitting terms very well right now, because I just started knitting English and I'm Swedish, so mostly read patterns in Swedish, or currently living in Norway, so Norwegian is also fine. I do read patterns in English too, I just can never remember the terms for anything. But yeah, they turned out a little bit too small, so I'm thinking they'll be for the next one. And I did go up a size and knit him a new pair of socks that fit perfectly, but I think I had the foot length of 4 to 5 years old. And then my current project that I'm working on, because it's getting cold outside, it's autumn. It's about 8 degrees Celsius outside and windy and not really nice, and leaves hasn't really changed color yet, but weather-wise it's definitely autumn, even though it should still be end of the summer and fairly warm. It's 8 degrees Celsius, windy, and most days also raining. Lovely. So I decided to knit myself a headband in waiting for actual winter and needing a hat. But yeah, no, I decided to cast on a headband or ear warmer or whatever you want to call it. And like the thing that got me knitting in the first place was I saw this beautifully cabled hat and I was just thinking, oh, I'd like to be able to do that. But cables have felt like it was gonna be really, really hard. But I thought to myself, well, a headband is not really a big project, so if I find one with cables I could probably practice. And then maybe make a hat with cables or mittens or gloves or something. I just love the look of cables. So I found some yarn that was on sale and it's acrylic, and I bought a few skeins to just use for random projects. And I decided on using one of the red skeins and make a cabled headband. And there was a knot in the skein, so that's not nice. But yeah, this is how far I've come. And it doesn't really quite go around my head yet, but it's getting there. I don't have a big head, but I have a lot of hair. And I'd say I probably have that much left. But yeah. It's not really matching my hair color, but could be nice, and if it's not, I guess it will be for someone else. But I am stupidly happy with how the cables turned out, considering it's my first attempt at cables, and yeah. They're not really that bad. But yeah, my headband, kid's ugly Christmas sweater, a pair of too small kid socks, a pair of actually fitting kid socks, which the kid is having to kindergarten, so I can't really show them off either. I did, however, take a picture, so I guess I could insert that, like here, maybe. And I also knit my partner a winter hat, or at least a hat. Seeing as I haven't really gotten around to making anything for myself to wear yet, I'm not sure how warm this yarn is ending up being, so can't really say if it's a winter hat or if I have to line it with something to make it into a suitable winter hat, but he hasn't really taken it off since he got it, so I'm guessing that it was a good knit. I am oddly fond? Yes, oddly fond of how it turned out. The pattern for the hat is the easy Ombre Slouch hat. It's found on Ravelry. I can't remember what any of the other patterns I talked about, except the shirt, but I told you that, what they're called, but I will link all of the patterns in the description box. And possibly resources for the yarn too. But yeah, the yarn for the headband is this one. It's probably the wrong side for you, but it's Priscillia from House of Yarn. It's called Tia. It's acrylic. I think it's 100%, yes, 100% acrylic. And it's in color 409. I'm not really sure if it's sold anywhere but Europris, so unless you're in Norway, this might not be available to you. But it's really soft and nice to knit with, and I kind of love that. But yes, that was all my projects, finished objects, and stash enhancements for this week. So I'll see you next week, and you have a lovely day, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are. Bye!